It seems that a lot of people have mixed reactions to the, potential tag team match that might headline, if not take place as one of the featured matches on WrestleMania Night 1. And of course being The Rock and Roman against Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. And look, I understand everybody has their opinions, the mixed reactions, and justifiably so. I mean, one, Seth is going to be potentially, if he is, correct in his assumptions, and estimations, he's going to be 100%, if not more, cleared to be in the ring for WrestleMania, potentially for 2 nights. And The Rock, The Rock will be competing in his first match in over a decade. So you could see why people have a mixed reaction, kind of opinionated mixed reaction about this. I mean, one, they're kind of worried that Seth will re-injure himself. They're worried that Rock will injure himself. There's there's the big chance that that the main event that closes out WrestleMania, the 2 participants there could injure themselves. So why take the chance? Why take this, chance to, put them at that, put them in that kind of a risky situation to where you could endanger your 2 world championship matches, within the span of 24 hours of happening. And, so again, it's very understandable. It's very justifiably, understandable why, people, feel that way. But when you really think about it, though, what other way do you have that's going to protect Seth and Rock, especially since, Seth is going to be bouncing back from an injury and Rock is competing in his first full match, in over a decade. What other solution do you have on tap to ensure, hey, we get Rock on the card like he wants to be, or he's, been promised he will be, or been told or promised TKO he would be. How is he going to do that? How are you going to do that without risking injury? You know what I'm saying? And if you're still determined to get to Rock and Roman down the line, what better way to do that than to, go this route? Go the route that can ensure that somebody is going to turn face, before this year is out. Maybe even before WrestleMania weekend's out. Between Rock and Roman. What better way to do that than, with a tag match here? But, we'll have to see. One thing a lot of people have been very clear about, and that includes some of the superstars in the back, according to reports, and mostly by one Damian Priest, they're unsure of what's happening behind the scenes. Because even though they're pretty much, given the material right off the bat, that mainly it feels like, and this is from Damian's own words, or Damian's own mouth, it feels like the Attitude Era backstage, where it was unpredictable. Like you knew things were prepared in advance, but you weren't sure of what you're going to be doing until you met with somebody, or until somebody called you aside and said, hey, here's what you guys are doing tonight, and here's what you're going to probably be doing next week, and whatever, or like, here's the plan we have laid out for you, here's what you're doing tonight, and then here's what we got planned for you next week, and so on. Which, it could be, a benefit. It could be a blessing in disguise, because at least hey, we have something planned, but we just don't know how we're going to execute it, like what the plan's going to be for us and everything. And that's great. That is terrific if you think about it. Now you might say, well, it sounds very similar to when Vince was running things, right? Here's the thing. When Vince was running things, all ideas, scripts, whatever you want to call them, were torn up. Everything that was, changed was changed at the last second, even during, the match when it was in progress. If you don't believe me, ask Dutch Mantel, who is known as Zeb Coulter. Those kind of things occurred. Here, yeah, there is a atmosphere of unpredictability, but it's a directional unpredictability. Like, you got a plan set up for you, you just don't know what it's going to be till you get there. And then when you find out, you're like, oh, okay, that works for me. That works out good. Because again, as I've mentioned before, you have to realize we are under a regime, in a creative regime, if you will, that's a lot more different. This is just check something there. That's a lot more different than Vince McMahon's and Kevin Dunn's. This is a regime that's like, hey, we're very aware of storylines and spoilers being leaked out, plans being leaked out. So what we're going to do now is keep everything tight to the vest, so that nobody is aware of what we got planned. Nobody's aware that this is the direction we're going to go in with this storyline for the Judgment Day, for Rhea Ripley, for Becky Lynch, for Gunther and Imperium, for the New Day and Jimmy Uso and so on. And especially a main event scene of who's going to be challenging Seth Rollins for the world title and whatnot. You're basically now in a situation to where you're going to have, as a fan, you have to guess what's going to happen instead of reading up on what, people like Sean Ross Sapp and Mike Johnson and others will tell you. And when it comes to The Rock and, Roman against Cody and Seth in a tag match, maybe, if that's the direction they go in, then that's the direction they go in. Because, again, how else are you going to keep, Rock safe? How are you going to keep Seth safe? It doesn't mean necessarily they have to do, less of the match. Just let them get in there, mix it up for about maybe a couple of minutes, tag out, and then there you go. There you go. Like if you want to do Seth against Roman during the match, do that. If you want to do Cody against Rock during the match, do that. Mix it up. And then eventually kind of tease, the Cody Roman matchup, but then save it. Have Roman tag out to his cousin. And Rock could be like, what the hell are you doing? Why don't you fight this guy? And then that's when you could start setting up the dissension between the family members and everything. So, or vice versa. You could have Rock tag out and Roman could be like, why don't you fight this guy? So, again, you could use the tag match to start creating that dissension that will build into the next 24 hours to see exactly who's, if they're still aligned. And then that eventually leads to the inevitable breakup, if you know what I mean. But there's a million ways you can go with this. But we won't know until we get to Mania. And the only clues and hints we're going to get is on that road, that fiery road, as Triple H puts it, to WrestleMania. Now, what's even interesting, though, about this, and I mentioned this in my previous video where I talked about it, this Hollywood Rock thing didn't last long, according to JD, and he is right about this. JD brought it up on Off the Script today. It didn't last too long. It only lasted for several months, a couple, 3.5 months or something like that, 2.5, 3 months. And then he went back to being himself, and you kind of saw the face turn happening just a tiny bit towards the end of that run. And the reason I bring this up is because I don't think the run's going to last that much longer here either, because he's got Moana 2 potentially, where he's going to be voicing Maui, and then of course the live action remake it where he's starring as Maui coming up at the end of this year and next year. So I don't think he and Disney and WWE are going to want him to, and TKO are going to want him to be a bad guy going forward. So I think you can expect this Hollywood Rock or Heelish Rock persona to end after Mania. But what do you